Hi everyone. So I'm doing my John Maxwell, again focusing on the next point in this book, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and it's by John Maxwell, New York Times best-selling author. I'm a speaker with them and I'm building my business by doing this, as well as trying to reach out to see if people are interested in getting workshops going or doing something together where we can better our lives. I've reached out to colleges, to universities, to different businesses in Canada and overseas, as well as in Zimbabwe. And that's what I have to keep doing, keep reaching out, and eventually I will start getting the speaking engagements. I've done other speaking work, but not for my John Maxwell. So today I'm focusing on why we need a team. And there's a quote that Mother Teresa has which says, "What you can do, I cannot do, and what I can do, you cannot do." So on our teams, that's why we need people who complement us, people who are going to bring a different perspective to us, and to do it with gentleness and to do it with respect for us. So one of the things that I encourage people to do, that I mentor, is to focus on their skills, to focus on what they can do, what they are bringing to the table. And I know for us, when we come here from the African countries especially, people don't really respect us. And I've noticed it, like even when I used to go to meetings for people who had been laid off or unemployed. They have outplacement firms here. So for many years, the companies that I used to be let go from, they used to cover the cost for that, so that I would have an opportunity to network with other executives and hopefully from that get a job. But unfortunately for me, that didn't work. So if I would be sitting at the table with somebody who had an English accent, or who would say, "I'm a Canadian executive and I'm an HR professional, I was let go from my job and I'm looking for a new opportunity," immediately people's faces would light up and they're like, "Oh, can I talk to you? What did you do? Where did you work?" And with me, with my accent, they'd say, "Oh, you don't sound Canadian. Where are you from?" And I say to them, "Oh, I'm from Zimbabwe." And they're like, "Oh." And that was kind of how it went. But I never let them get to me, because I'm proud of my country in terms of what we've done, considering what we've gone through. It's not all like a bed of roses, and the country was run into the ground. But if we are coming here, we're not coming as uneducated people. We're people who have been put through the system. We had to have the same points as other educated people to come into the country, and we had to have the skills, the credentials. So when we're on a team, we are bringing things to the table that are benefiting our companies, and we deserve to be treated with the same respect and the same consideration as somebody coming from South Africa or coming from Holland or wherever. We do deserve it. And we don't always get treated that way. The South Africans are very proud of themselves because they've done things like won the World Cup. They have good rugby teams. They have good infrastructure. And Zimbabwe had all those things as well. And it's starting to come right slowly. With the COVID pandemic, UNICEF actually did a mini documentary on how well they rolled out the COVID vaccinations in Zimbabwe with the support of the government. And the skills that we are bringing is not only our culture, not only the culture of Ubuntu and being people through other people, it's also our etiquette. Like when we go into the office, a lot of the African women that I've met, they've said to me, "These people here don't greet each other in the morning. They don't say good morning. They just come to their desk and sit down and work." I said, "Yeah, that's how they are in a lot of the companies." And they're like, "Oh, but we're not like that at home." I said, "Yeah, we're not like that at home, but that's how some of them are." So you have to adjust to how they are. So there's a lot of things that we find very abrasive when we come into Canada, but we have to adjust to our teams, and we have to remember our strengths. We have to remember what we can bring to the table. Over here, they passed that law about exchanges, and if something's priced incorrectly and you take it to the teller, they have to give it to you free. They passed that law here, I think it was about like in 2007, 2008, and some of those things we do naturally in Zimbabwe. If somebody is bringing a packet of milk that they just bought, or tomatoes or something, we'll exchange it for them. Over here, if you produce your receipt, they'll do that for you as well. So there's some things that we have to be able to say, we're not completely illiterate like you think, and we're not completely stupid like you think. You can't just pull the wool over our eyes. And we do have an understanding. We are compassionate people. We do have etiquette. So we're not using long drop toilets in our homes. So things like that matter. And on our teams, you can adjust. Like some people, they'll say, hey, good morning to you. We don't say, hey, good morning when we walk in the office. So you have to adjust to how they are, the Americans, and the British as well. The British also swear a lot like the Americans. And even when they're talking to you, just in everyday conversation, they swear a lot. So for those of us who didn't grow up with that, and who didn't grow up with that in our homes, in our workplaces, it can be very abrasive. But we adjust to them and we move on. We just say, you know what, that's you. That's how you are, and that's how you like to be, and that's how you like to live. But we can hold on to who we are. They have this thing here called hold your image. So even though the executive didn't contact me for executive jobs in their firms, they didn't put my name forward, it doesn't mean I'm not an executive. Because I know I sat on boards in Canada. I know I was doing executive level work when I worked in the banks, when I was helping with project coordination, project management. I had big portfolios. I had teams under me. So I had to adjust when I went into the call center, and I was in an entry-level role. But if you don't have a job, and if you don't have a way to get an income, isn't it better to take that than rather to be out on the street? Because I'm not a millionaire. I don't have a year's salary in the bank that I can live off. So that's why I took that job in the call center, and people were very surprised. They're like, oh, you're so good, you're so good. And I said, well, what are you talking about? They're like, no, you're very good with the customers, you're very good with the clients. When the clients used to come from America, they all used to come and ask to meet me. And they used to come around on the floor and they'd say, where is she? We want to meet her. So I had a good reputation in the office and people liked me. So that's what we have to remember on our teams. If you're building a team where everybody thinks like you, and everybody is like you, and everybody is the same as you, you're going to lose out on diversity and the richness of having a team of people where you have different perspectives coming in. And that's what happened with COVID. And that's what happened with this maid in Canada, the medical assistants in dying. There's a majority of us in Canada who are not supporting it, but the government's position is like, we decided this is how we're going to do it. That was a private member's bill that they put through. It wasn't something that the public were all in favor of. So it's important to remember that when decisions are being made, because things can happen, like happened with baby Charlie, where even with the intervention of world leaders, the courts put through that baby would be euthanized and they couldn't stop it. Even with world leaders saying this is wrong, they couldn't stop it. So that's a violation of human rights. And if you don't have that other perspective on your team, then when it's your turn, you'll lose out. Because that court decision wasn't in favor of the family. It was not in favor of the parents. And these are very serious matters. They are matters that affect our lives. They affect our livelihoods. And I got a new doctor now because my doctor is retiring. And my doctor has come from England. He told me they're not investing in the NHS there. And a lot of doctors are leaving. They're coming to Canada or they're going elsewhere. So it's the same with us. If we are not valued here where we are and we can't get the jobs and people are not willing to invest in us, then we too have to be willing to move when those opportunities come up elsewhere. And for me, it won't be hard because I don't really have anything keeping me here. And my mother's remarried, my sister's got her own life. So I won't be heartbroken if I have to leave Canada to take a job elsewhere for a few years and then come back. It will be hard to leave my condo because I have a beautiful place that I live in. But if I'm going to a better opportunity and I'm going to an executive opportunity, then I'll be happy. Because you leave something, when you leave something, you're giving up something to get something. And that's how life works. Otherwise, why would I have left? When my mother told me don't come back to Zimbabwe, why would I have listened to her? Because I saw the land grabs that were happening. I saw what was happening in Zimbabwe. And it broke my heart for my country. Because I absolutely loved it. And when that working holiday was over in England, I was planning to go back. I was like, yeah, you know what? London's nice. I enjoyed it. It's a nice country. I enjoyed getting to travel. And I got to see quite a few places around England. I went to Stonehenge. I went to Bath. I went to Wales. I went to Scotland on those Contiki tours. I saw a lot. I've been to California. I've seen Los Angeles. I've been to Disneyland. I've been to Tulare, where my uncles live. My uncle lives. I've been to San Francisco, which I really liked. I've been to New York. I've worked on a Camp Echo Lake in the north of Connecticut. So I've enjoyed traveling and seeing different things. Yes, there's a few places I'd still like to see. But even if something opened up for me in the travel field, I would enjoy that as well. So we have to be open to diverse things, diverse teams, diverse people. And even in Zimbabwe, we had a lot of foreigners that used to come. And we treated them very, very well. Everybody that came from Switzerland, from Sweden, from Canada, from Britain, because there were a lot of mining companies there, Anglo-American. Sable Chemicals used to produce potash, the manure. And so we had good industry set up. But unfortunately, it was run into the ground, just like Canada's being run into the ground now, with the Great Reset and selling drugs and all that on the streets. It's creating more health problems. And I remember when they were passing that law, I was one of the people that opposed it. I said, no, this is not right, because what you're going to do is you're going to create more mental health problems, more addiction. Young kids will want to experiment with drugs. And other people said, no, it will be fine. It's worked in other countries. CBC pushed for it. So now what's happening is the exact thing that some of us said would happen. So we have to also use our voices and we have to speak up. And if we have diverse teams, then our voices will be listened to and they'll be heard. At the end of the day, they're going to make their decisions anyway, whether they run the country into the ground or whether they listen to us and lift the country up. But we also have to be responsible on our teams, and we have to speak up for the policies we think need to be there, the principles we think need to be there, and what we see as being valuable, what we see as being good. And if people don't want to accept it, there's nothing we can do. It's the same thing as me. Because I used to walk to school often, I have problems with my feet now. I remember once my sister's mother-in-law was looking at my feet and she said, "Look at your feet." She said, "It looks terrible." I said, "I did a lot of walking when I was young, in high school and junior school. I used to walk to school." So that's part of the things that happen in childhood also affect us later on. That's why I'm a big advocate for children's rights and for helping the children, because those things that happen in childhood affect us later on. And I do advocate for it on my teams. I tell them I'm an activist with the One campaign. I told them at Teleperformance I'm doing this John Maxwell. They said, "Okay, if something opens up down the line, then we'll let you know in the training field." So that's what we have to do. We have to use our voices and we have to speak up, and we have to have people on our teams that are from different backgrounds and take note of who we are allowing into our inner circle. And because people with different perspectives can help us see things from a different point of view, and people with the same perspective as us can encourage us if the values are good, if the things we are doing are right. And when we are down, like me now, unemployed, and when we are thinking, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do? It's very, very important. You need to have very good friends. Friends who can remind you, hey, look at your master's degree. Look at what you've done with supporting Bruce Springsteen and Sting and Usain Bolt and Tracy Chapman. And you didn't start now, you started in your youth. You need people like that in your life, because there's always people competing with you. You think people don't compete with me for Sting's attention and Bono and presidents of the countries? Really? You think that I think I'm the only one that wants their attention and their time? Think again. I grew up in Zimbabwe. I didn't grow up here. I'm not stupid. If I had grown up here, maybe I would think, yeah, it's only me, it's only Belinda that they like. I really don't think that. So it's important to remember that. And most of these guys are old now. I mean, they're good looking, don't get me wrong, but they old now, they know. And Springsteen's 75 now. Sting is also in his 70s. So they were my icons, for me and my cousin Sharon. They were our icons. And I absolutely love them for what they did, for standing up for human rights. But I also have my own dreams, I have my own goals, and nobody's coming to rescue me. So I take things as I can, and I do everything I can to land that job and to get that opportunity. Because I've networked with a lot of people who are at the executive level. So it's not like they don't know me, they know me. And I'm not talking about not Zimbabwe, I'm talking about here in Canada. They know me. They know that I was working at the executive level and earning that $35 to $50 an hour. So when I ask for that salary of $70,000 to $100,000, it is not unrealistic. For someone with my skills, my education, my experience, it is very realistic. And I'm praying God opens those doors. And even this John Maxwell, I'm doing it for free now, but I'm going to go from free to fee. I'm going to charge for my speaking. Whatever I do for the One campaign and all that, yes, that's free. What I did for the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, that was paid. The government paid me. I got money to go to the schools. I got my taxis paid for. It wasn't free. So have diverse people on your team. Have people who will vouch for you, speak for you, stand up for you. And don't let them put you down. Don't let them say, oh yeah, you came from Zimbabwe. Oh no. If we could go through what our leaders went through with them putting them in jail because they were fighting for human rights, and then come out and come and live in these countries, compete with them and get better scores than them, we are worthy of respect. We are worthy of good jobs. Believe you me, you'll find that right team. Persevere. Don't give up.